welcome to Moving Kentucky Forward. I'm your host, Bruce Maples, and in this week's show, we're joined by Chuck Eddy, the founder of the group Republicans for Andy Beshear and Jacqueline Coleman. I was intrigued when I discovered this group, so I reached out to Mr. Eddy to learn more. It's Monday, August the 5th, and time to move Kentucky forward. Let's get started. We're here with Chuck Eddy, the founder of the group Republicans for Beshear, except I think it has a longer name than that. So, Chuck, welcome to Moving Kentucky Forward.
Well, that sounds real good. I appreciate the opportunity. Can I give you that full name?
Absolutely.
So it's Republicans for Andy Beshear and Jacqueline Coleman. I felt it was important. Jacqueline Coleman is such an important part of the team since she's an educator.
Right. First of all, let me ask you a couple of things about you, and then we'll get into the group. What's your political background? What's your experience working in politics, if any?
Well, I don't really have any experience working in politics. I did run for Congress last year in the 6th District of Kentucky in the Republican primary against Andy Barr, but that's the only political experience I have other than I vote in primary elections and general elections religiously. And when I say religiously, I don't mean I approach it religiously, but I do it all the time.
Right. And you are a registered Republican and have been one for a long time?
I'm a lifelong registered Republican. I'm 67. I've always been a registered Republican.
Okay. Well, so then why did you found this group?
Well, very simply, I've been involved with the teachers and teacher retirees in Kentucky 120 since last year when Matt Bevin started working on trying to take away the defined benefit pensions of the teachers and turn it into a defined contribution, the 401k concept.
Right.
Including he tried to push through the sewer bill, did push through the sewer bill, I should say, that got, turned down in the courts. But the way he was acting on that was very underhanded. And then his just flat out abuse of people, of the teachers, claiming that during one time when many of them were in Frankfurt, and I might add that the great majority of those teachers going to Frankfurt took personal days. This whole thing about people calling in sick all the time, that's not true.
Right.
So when they were down there for one of those days, he said, a kid probably got sexually assaulted in eastern Kentucky because the teachers weren't in school. And that was disgusting. He also said that, one morning when it was very, very cold and freezing rain or whatever, I forgot what it was, he said, they're tough. They should be able to handle it. They shouldn't have to have school off. He's just got such an unrealistic idea of what the common person has to deal with, and has been attacking education, pushing charter schools, trying to push that scholarship program, which would have taken money away from the general fund. So every time you turn around, he's doing something that's anti-public education. And then he's also been aggressively trying to pull back on health care, change the Medicaid standards,
right?
Saying, hey, we need to have an employment requirement for these people. Well, he's not digging into the reality of it, because many of these people on Medicaid are the working poor. These people are already working. They just don't have the wherewithal to get it. And if you look at the state, the people who are in Kentucky that are using the most Medicaid are heavily concentrated in eastern Kentucky, where I used to live. I used to live in Estill County, and it's tragic, the attacks he's had. He's so out of touch with what reality is. He's been part of the lawsuit and supporting, gutting Obamacare, taking away protections for pre-existing conditions. It's just everywhere I turned, he was attacking people. And this is not the Republican Party I grew up in. I'm a Republican in the nature of Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt and Dwight D. Eisenhower. People who cared about the people, presidents who cared about the people. And our two senators, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but John Sherman Cooper and Trustin Morton were two of the key votes in a 1965 Civil Rights Act and a 1966 Voting Rights Act.
Right.
Those would not be passed without the leadership of Everett Dirksen, Republican from Illinois, and from our two moderate Republican senators here in Kentucky. So I come from a long history of the center of the Republican Party. What Matt Bevin is despicable.
So that's pretty clear. What response have you gotten? You only have a Facebook page, is that correct? There's no website.
We don't have a website. It's just a Facebook page. The response has actually been pretty phenomenal. I mean, if you go on the page, which of course is public, anybody can go there. Anybody can, comment on any of the things that are there. But there's over like 700 people, quote unquote, liking and following it.
Right.
That's not really the impact of it, because we've had various of the posts that we've had that have reached as many as 20,000 people. Additionally to that, these posts generally get out across the education community, across many of the other communities as well. So there's actually a great response across all of those. We've helped motivate people to be volunteers for canvassing.
Yeah.
Now, one thing about us, okay, we're only concerned about getting Beshear and Coleman in, and Bevin and Doctor. Now, I put Doctor in parentheses, by the way, because what doctor does not support mandatory vaccinations? And the answer to that question is Dr. Ralph Alvarado does not.
Right.
Okay. But anyway, so Bevin and keeping Bevin and Alvarado, getting Bevin out and keeping Alvarado out, that's the only thing we care about. We don't care who you voted for in 2016.
Right.
Was Clinton or Trump or a third party, or you sat home. We don't care. 2018, we don't care. Who you're going to vote for in 2020, we don't care. It could be green, it could be Republican, it could be purple, it could be Democrat. We don't care. The focus of this, we don't even care about the other offices, Attorney General, Secretary of State, any of those things.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
As Republicans, our interest is, and remember this, if you go back to the primary, Bruce, 48% of us voted no on Bevin. Between Woods, Lawrence, and Goforth, 48% of the Republicans voting in the primary voted for those three.
Right.
52% voted for Bevin. Okay? So, which was a shock to the system. Of course, Bevin frequently says, well, he doesn't care about low ratings. Okay? Well, his low rating almost got him out of the primary. I'm sorry, I just realized I'm speaking a little passionately.
That's
My
all right.
apologies.
It's all right.
Well, that's what I feel. But the thing is, see, Bevin is a blot on what it really means to be a Republican, okay? The other offices don't matter. Other elections don't matter. This election is about the future of public education and healthcare in Kentucky, and what he has done with the state workers and the quasi-governmentals as well. This pulling back on the pensions. He's made no effort to find additional revenue. None.
Right.
Okay? Not to mention the fact that part of the reason that pensions are in a mess is not just historical lower contributions, although that was true, okay? But a couple of years ago, new board members that he appointed, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, Bruce, redefined what the return on investment should be,
right,
and categorized it to jack up the amount of money they need to have on hand. And this happened exclusively with his board appointees, okay? You may recall recently, last year, he squeezed out the education commissioner, who was doing a pretty decent job, and replaced him with a guy who's a charter school advocate. And I personally don't have any problem with charter schools if my tax dollars aren't involved.
Right.
If you've got an individual corporation, and I'm just going to, this is not a real situation, but if Amazon decided, you know what, we're going to do some charter schools, and they invested the money, and they hired the people, and it did not affect public school funding, I don't care. That's fine. But everything he was talking about was going to affect public schools. Anyway, so his commissioner of education is not a public school advocate.
Right.
Okay, at all. He's a charter school advocate. So circling back, it's not. So we've helped get people to canvass We also have we're also helping co-sponsor a couple of fundraisers, one in Louisville and one in Lexington right now.
Right.
We down the road we'll have some materials, Republicans for, Beshear and Coleman, some printed materials as well. But this was completely independent of the campaign. They had no idea this was coming.
Right.
They didn't know what is this thing. It's like picked it up, looked at it, and said, "Where'd this come from?"
Yeah. So have they talked to you at all, or have you talked to them at all?
We do talk. Yes, we do talk. I have no talking points or anything like that. Canvassing, I'm using their materials that they've printed, but other than that, I make it clear to people that I talk to that I'm a Republican supporting Andy Barr and Jacqueline Coleman, and these are the reasons why.
Yeah.
The education, the health care. And I'll tell you one thing, and it can't be emphasized enough, the attitude, the crude attitude that Bevin portrays, he's just insulting to Kentuckians, and it makes it worse. Now, I'm from out of state. I moved here from Texas 23 years ago. The same weekend, by the way, the Kentucky Wildcats won the championship. We rolled in late that night. We didn't realize Lexington was going to be up for the next 48 hours.
Right.
Back in night. But attitude, how he talks it, and then being proud of the fact that he sent his kids for a measles party, to catch the measles.
Right.
He's also against vaccinations, not supportive of them, and it just drives me nuts. I've got, I was just recently watching a short thing. Candyland was invented by a school teacher to help kids who had polio. Okay, back in the late 1940s.
Right.
Well, I've got friends my age. Okay, I've been involved in horses for a long time, and I had one friend of mine, polio. She's about my age, a couple of years earlier. Well, she's completely paralyzed in her two legs. Can't get around except with braces and crutches. The only time she feels free is when she's riding a horse.
Sure.
Okay. So that was kind of a side path, so to speak, to getting to the fact that, polio was mostly eradicated because of the vaccinations. And I don't want my kid, in my case, my grandkid, going to school with people who have not been vaccinated. And that's another thing that concerns me about Bevin and Alvarado. They are careless about this. That's horrible.
So you've had obviously some people who like what you're doing. What kind of pushback have you had from other Republicans? Are people angry with you for doing this? Have you heard from people in your neighborhood or your friends or family? What kind of response are you getting from those people?
The only truly angry responses I get are the occasional comments on something that's posted like, heck no, I'm Bevin all the way, or you're really a Democrat, aren't you? And if you look on the page, Republicans' page, you'll find that those comments go up and then they go down because I delete them because I don't need that kind of negativity, as somebody once said. The main pushback, and it's not huge pushback, is that, aren't you really a Democrat? And the answer is no. I mean, yeah, it's just absurd to me that some people think that unless you support something like Bevin or someone like Bevin, that you can't be a Republican. Well, that's horse puppies. So that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But a little bit of pushback, not a lot. What really got me going on this was I'm part of a lot of working with a lot of educators and teachers, retired teachers, and all that. And on these pages, right after the primary, okay, all kinds of people were posting, I got 3 Republicans in my family. I'm not voting for Bevin. I'm going to vote for Beshear. And person after person after person coming forward saying that. And what that made me realize is that when I looked in the mirror, I didn't just see me, but there are hundreds and thousands of people behind me, okay, that feel the same way. And these are people, and you understand, when I say we don't care who you voted for, 2016, 2018, remember, this is the same 2016 that went heavily for Trump, more heavily than many of the Deep South states.
Right.
And this is the same people who this year said no to Bevin at a huge percentage.
Right.
Okay, he squeaked by. So yeah, a little bit of pushback, not a huge amount. But when you're doing something like this, the people who are most likely to respond are people who are interested, similar nature. But we've had a lot of, like I said, a lot of good response. A lot of people come forward. Yeah, I created the page, but I've just been tickled pink with how many people have come forward and say, yeah, what you're saying is me. And these people continually inspire me and the others. But, and as you saw today, we have a state senator, Republican state senator, that just endorsed Andy Beshear. You saw that, right?
Yeah, I just saw it, yes.
Now, this is a state senator, Republican state senator, who is unhappy. And did you watch his announcement?
I haven't yet. No, I'm going to.
One of the things he says in it very simply is, this is me, I'm supporting Andy Beshear, and I'm tired of various things, including the attacks on teachers, of which there are 4 in my family.
Right.
Okay? And when you look at the people who voted no on various bills in the legislature, you've got state representatives Scott Lewis and Travis Brenda, who come out of education.
Right.
Okay? Who are consistently pushing back against these horrible anti-public education things. In fact, those two have a bill that they've sponsored. It hasn't been called to the floor or anything yet. It has an alternative proposal for teachers' pensions that would be much better than the attempt to turn it all into 401k. I've been in the private sector all my life. I've had 401k. Okay, they're not your buddy.
Yeah. So you're doing this work, and you're helping with some volunteering and maybe a couple of fundraisers. It's early days. We haven't even passed Fancy Farm yet. But do you have some sort of sense of where you think this is going? Do you think this anti-Bevin feeling in the Republican Party is enough to keep him from getting reelected?
I think it very likely is. Here's the deal, and I go back to, again, the huge turnout in the primary. Okay? The areas where Bevin lost to go forth, heavily eastern Kentucky. The areas where Rocky Adkins did so well in the Democratic primary, eastern Kentucky. Remember what I was saying about Medicaid earlier? If you look at a map of the state of Kentucky, the highest percentage of Kentucky residents using Medicaid are in the eastern Kentucky.
Sure.
If you look at that state, and I don't know if have you looked at one of those maps?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, it's just startling. It's startling how many of those people out there just are just hungry for some kind of an improvement in their life, and they see what Bevin has done as attacking that, taking that away. Not to mention disrespecting the people who are on Medicaid and assuming, his attitude. This is the attitude he projects. People who are on Medicaid are bums.
Right.
He's not said those words. That's the attitude he projects whenever he talks about that. Okay? And they're not. I've lived in eastern Kentucky. We're not bums out there, okay? There are a lot of people who have a lot of need, and until the recent Affordable Care Act and the Medicaid expansion in this state, many of those people had never been to a doctor ever, okay? And now he's talking about taking that back and saying, well, they need to be working or some kind of education. Well, they already are, the great majority of them. Mm-hmm. He's talking about able-bodied people. Able-bodied people who are parts of families who have low enough income are on Medicaid. That's right. So if I understand you correctly, Governor Bevin, you want to take those people off of it. Okay, I understand. Have you no heart?
Yeah. Well, I just found it really interesting, which is why I wanted to talk with you about this. I also find it interesting that you ran against Andy Barr without going too far afield. What caused you to want to do that?
Healthcare, same as with Matt Bevin. The healthcare situation and his opposition to the program and willing to get rid of it, which includes protections against pre-existing conditions. That's a big part of it, Bruce, a very, very big part of it, because pre-existing conditions, I have a pre-existing condition. I have sleep apnea. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a pre-existing condition. I've had that a long time. Okay, and the idea that he would willingly get rid of that, also part of what's under the Affordable Care Act, the basic health essentials, is free birth control. Okay, and I'm personally against abortion, except for rape, incest, the health of the mother, and the inability of the fetus to survive outside the womb. The best way to prevent abortions is to prevent unwanted pregnancies. The best way to prevent unwanted pregnancies is birth control. Okay?
Right.
What person enthusiastically votes to repeal that, knowing that the free birth control is being taken away, knowing that the protection against pre-existing conditions are being taken away? So, yes, you went slightly far afield, but you can see the trend with me. It's healthcare there, it's healthcare here,
Yep.
and it's education.
Yep.
With Bevin.
Chuck Eddy, founder of Republicans for Andy Beshear and Jacqueline Coleman. Thank you for your time. I'm intrigued by your group, and I intend to watch it more closely on Facebook, including the announcements you've got today from the state senator. Good luck, and we may be talking again before the election.
You have a great day. God bless you. Thanks so much for giving me a holler and hearing the stuff that I've got to say. God bless you and have a great day.
Thank you, sir. That was Chuck Eddy, the founder of Republicans for Andy Beshear and Jacqueline Coleman. I just checked their Facebook page, and they're at about 800 likes and followers, and they have pictures up from their time at Fancy Farm. You can find their page on Facebook, so follow along with what they're doing. We still have early bird tickets to our statewide summit in September, so if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go to the website to buy them now. That's forwardky.com. And if you aren't subscribed to one or more of our newsletters, you can do that at the website as well. See you next week.